नमस्कार. आज आपण मराठीमध्ये आजचा वेबिनार करतो आहे. तर सगळ्यात आधी म्हणजे थोडक्यात मी पुणे रिव्हर रिवायवल बद्दल सांगते. ओके, देर इज समबडी हू डज नॉट अंडरस्टँड Marathi. So, okay, let me tell something about Pune River Revival, which is PRR. We are a group of individuals and organizations who mainly work for rivers in Pune. We want rivers to be clean, naturally flowing, and with rich biodiversity, where there is no pollution and we have lots of fish and greenery and birds, and that is something we are looking for. So basically, we are working for rights of rivers. And we have also questioned the current project, which is called as riverfront development. In its current form, you can really call it as riverfront destruction. And what we are not only questioning that, but we have also proposed alternatives, which are sustainable alternatives for that project. And Manasi is one of the persons who has given that sustainable alternative to the current project. मराठीमध्ये मी पुन्हा एकदा थोडक्यात सांगते की पुणे रिव्हर रिवायवल हे नद्यांच्या हक्कांसाठी नद्या स्वच्छ, सुंदर, नैसर्गिक असाव्यात. तिथे झाडं कापू नयेत, नद्यांचे कालवे करू नयेत, यावरती आपण मुख्यतः काम करतो. आणि सध्या जो एक मोठा प्रकल्प चालला आहे 5,000 करोड रुपयांचा, की ज्याच्यामध्ये नद्यांचा कालवे करणं, तिथे झाडं तोडणं आणि नदी स्वच्छतेवर एक पैसाही खर्च न होणं, असा जो काही तो प्रकल्प चालू आहे. त्याला आपण त्याबद्दल प्रश्न उपस्थित केले आहेत आणि त्याच्यासाठी आपण जे पर्याय दिलेत त्यातला एक पर्याय आपल्याकडे मानसी आलेली आहे की जी आपल्याला नद्यांबद्दल सांगणार आहे. तर त्यातल्या एका पर्यायावर तिने काम केलेलं आहे. तिची बाकी ओळख ती स्वतः देईलच आणि मला असं वाटतं की आपण मराठी इंग्रजी असं दोन्ही करूया. ज्यांना अजिबात मराठी येत नाहीत तुम्ही तुमचे प्रश्न इंग्लिशमध्ये लिहिले तर ते प्रश्न आपण इंग्लिशमध्ये घेऊ. आणि जर कोणाला इंग्लिश मध्ये कम्फर्टेबल नसेल तर मराठीत प्रश्न विचारा, मराठीमध्ये पण आपण प्रश्न घेऊ. तर मानसी, तू थोडक्यात तुझ्याबद्दल सांगून आपण आजच्या याला सुरुवात करूया.
थँक्स प्राजक्ता. सो नमस्कार सगळ्यांना. आणि आय थिंक एकाला 1% डझंट अंडरस्टँड मराठी ॲट ऑल, सो विल स्विच टू इंग्लिश. So to tell about myself, so first thing I would like to say is I'm on the site right now, and if there is any like connection problem, just let me know if you are not able to hear, or the share screen, if there is any problem, just let me know in the middle. So I have been working in this field of ecological management, biodiversity conservation, ecological restoration, mainly on private lands since 2002 through our organization called oikos, which was founded by me and Ketaki together. So it has been 22 years now, and we have till date worked on almost 170 projects, ranging from half acre to 12,000 acres. And we have handled like variety of lands so far. So mainly the lands were privately owned or were owned by industries, or were designated as industrial areas or townships or resorts. So we have worked on variety of lands and in variety of biogeographic zones throughout India. So the subject that I am going to talk about today is about how our areas are changing from what they were, which were semi-natural, to what they are now, and what could be their impacts on various ecosystems, specifically the river ecosystem. So let me share the screen. And so are you able to see the screen?
Yes, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So the topic is understanding source regions of these three rivers. So these three rivers are around Pune. Ambi and Pauna are like we are directly beneficiaries of these two rivers, but Bhima is little away from us. But all these three rivers have different characters by themselves, and even their source regions are different. So how they vary, what are their different characters, then what have been happening in those source regions since last few years is what I would like to talk about. Yeah. So I will be using Google Earth predominantly and some analysis that was done by us and by Ecological Society for last 10-15 years. And what insights that we got from all these analysis. And secondly, we have been traveling to these areas, these Western Ghats areas for quite frequently because we have a number of projects in those areas. So we have been observing all these landscapes, their changes, what have been happening there, what are the drivers of change in these areas since almost 22 years now. So whatever we have observed so far, I would like to put it here in a very brief format. So here the first image is of Bhima Shankar area. Now everybody knows that Bhima Shankar is a wildlife sanctuary, and here if you know, if you are well versed with using Google or a satellite imagery, all this green that you see are the semi-evergreen forest of Sahyadri. So this is the climax ecosystem that Sahyadri has. And also there are few pockets which are open pockets, but these pockets are not degraded area necessarily. Some of them are like very steep slopes, or some of them are rocky plateaus which are very plain areas, but still nothing can grow on it. No higher vegetation can grow. Only grasses and few special herbs grow on it. But this entire area is a part of Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, the sanctuary goes beyond this towards north, but this is a part of Chaskaman catchment, so like the Bhima catchment. So I have considered only this part. The next is, if you see and observe these areas, then you will notice that there is a predominant change in the first slide and second slide, that the second slide have lesser areas as mature forest or the semi-evergreen forest. And add to it, you can see some roads are going, this is the ring road that goes along this river catchment. So this is Ambi River, which is originating in this area, which is called Dapsar. And it has a dam which is built on it, which is called Panchet Dam. Now here, if you see, there is some leveling that has happened. So you can see this is a scar that you can see even from Google Earth. And then this is like a mixed vegetation pattern that you see. But here you can see there is a very nice patch of forest, which is the Sacred Grove of Mangaon. So actually, this image and this image, if you compare, there are very few patches of evergreen forest which are disconnected, and in between there are variety of other vegetation classes like dwarf canopy or scrub or open grasslands, then some cliffs and some rocky outcrops. So this is how Panchet catchment would look like. Then the third catchment is Pauna. So this second was, the first was Bhima River, second was Ambi River, and third is Pauna River. Now here, if you see that particularly these areas, so they have more of construction with them. So that is the concrete that we can see even from Google. And again, the patches of evergreen forest or semi-evergreen forest are little patchy, and they are of less percentage. So this is how these three river catchments are varying. And why so is because of ownership. So when we talk about conservation, when we talk about various activities that happen on land in landscapes, we need to consider this point, that what is the ownership of all these areas. So here, if you see in this image that these are the areas which are owned by government as forest. So these are reserve forest areas, though not a wildlife sanctuary. This is again a reserve forest area patch, but in between you can see that there is a lot of construction that has happened. So you can see that there is a house that is built, then there are few lawn areas like here, there is a swimming pool. So all these areas can be seen here. Then this third image, where the access is most predominant factor. So as people say that whenever like roads are, रस्त्यांना नेहमी विकासाचे वाटाडे म्हणतात की if you want development, you need to have the roads, you need to have the accesses. But when you have access, what happens? So this is again Western Ghats, and this is of course Lonavala and Khandala. So when you have this Lonavala and Khandala, you must have gone through this area a lot of times. So this is the expressway. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is what happens when you have a lot of access. Secondly, Lonavala area is also quite gradually sloping. It doesn't have much steep sloping areas. So here you see that the construction dominates actually. So here the human domination factor is much higher than the nature. So we'll go through all these source region one by one. So this is Bhima source. And the Bhima Wildlife Sanctuary, it is spread over almost 130 square kilometer, which has semi-evergreen forest and rocky plateaus and few cliffs, so rocky areas, and which is totally under ownership of Forest Department. Then it also has a Chaskaman Dam built over Bhima River with a catchment of almost 280 to 300 square kilometers. So this is a huge catchment that starts from Chaskaman Dam. The actual dam, area is pretty small as compared to other two dams of Panchet and Pauna. But the catchment area is pretty huge. Then third factor, it is away from metro city. This is a very defining factor that actually has a lot of say on land use pattern. Then this has a mixed land use like forests, semi-natural areas, some areas under agriculture, then some areas under villages. Few areas are under streams and the water body that is being impounded by the dam. So this is how that entire catchment looks like. So this is Chaskaman Dam. It has this impoundment, which is a smaller water body. And if you see, this entire area is its catchment. And at the end, like right at the source region, you can see that this area is under Forest Department, which is the Bhimashankar Wildlife Sanctuary. And now, because its ownership is with Forest Department, it has retained its character as semi-evergreen forest. Otherwise, you see all these areas which have been underutilization for man for various purposes like say cultivation, then grazing, then wood cutting, wood extraction for various purposes, then paddy field cultivation. So all these factors have actually made this catchment to what it is today. And this is not has happened within last 50 years, but this has happened over almost 150 to 200 years as the history goes by. So next is Ambi source, which is the Panchet catchment. Now Panchet Dam was constructed on this Ambi river, which actually Ambi river then meets Moshi, then Mutha, and which flows through our Pune. So this is actually a source of Mutha river. So this dam catchment is spread over 120 square kilometers, which includes the water area. It has mixed ownership, and thus the land use also ranges from semi-evergreen forest to constructed areas. Then it has a very close proximity to Pune. So Punekars have a very, I would say, close relation with Panchet Dam and its catchment. It is also have a relation because the Panchet Dam had burst in 1961, and which had changed the face of Pune to a great extent. So after actual Panchet Dam burst, the Pune has changed from a very small settlement to a larger city, and add to it the water that was available through impoundment of water. And that is how Pune developed very rapidly after that. Then in Panchet catchment, there are upper stretches that are under forest ownership. So here, if you see the Panchet catchment, which has a very linear character, it is a narrow valley. Then this is the dam water, as you can see, which is the impounded water. This area again, which is the source region, looks fairly good with semi-evergreen forest. But as you go towards the dam, the area starts degrading towards the dam. So you can see then there is a variety of vegetation classes from open grasslands to dwarf canopy. And few areas like this is Mangaon Sacred Grove, or these areas which are upper stretches of Shi and Tekpole and Thangaon village, which have little bit of fairly better canopy, I would say. So this is how the land use analysis of Panchet catchment looks like. Now, this study was done by Ecological Society in 2014-15, and where you can see that these areas which are dark green colored are the all canopy or the mature climax semi-evergreen forests areas in this catchment. But as I will go to the figures of all these areas, just bear with me for a few. So, but here, if you see, these pink areas are under human use. So they include agriculture and the modern development, both the things. So this is how any catchment will have human impact all over its place. So this is how the Panchet catchment looks like. Then coming to Pauna source, the Pauna Dam again was constructed on Pauna River, and which has a catchment of almost 116 square kilometer. So if you compare all the three areas, Chaskaman Dam catchment is the largest, which is almost double of both of these catchments. Then Pauna has close proximity to Pune, Mumbai, and Pimpri Chinchwad. So this has changed Pauna catchment to a great extent. So proximity to metros is one of the defining factors, as again I am stressing it again and again. Then mixed land use, including few semi-evergreen forest patches, human-dominated construction areas. Then some are like shrubbery areas, some are open patches, some are agriculture. Still, few people are continuing some agriculture there, and very few pockets are owned by the forest department in fauna source. So here the uh, differentiating factor in these three catchments is that Bhima catchment has a predominantly large area under forest department, while Pauna catchment has it lowest. So this is how it is changing eventually. So this is how the Pauna catchment looks. And if you see that there are these small pockets of areas where you can see the mature forest is still present. And this can be seen in this land use land cover map. So recently we have worked, like just last year, we have worked on this entire Pauna catchment of almost 116 square kilometers. We did some surveys, we did some mapping, and this is how the map looks like. And these are the areas which are having the good semi-evergreen forest vegetation. But there are some areas like here you can see which are red colored. So these are all modern development areas. Now, till now, I was just saying human use areas, but here it is a very starkly can be seen that modern development areas are increasing, and they are all over the catchment. So wherever the road goes, wherever there are accesses, you can see that the modern development is slowly sprawling inside the catchment areas. So these catchment areas are no longer being the only remotest parts or remote areas, but they are changing to a great extent. And this is how any area would change. So when a road comes, There will be some like ownerships that will change from local people to city dwellers. And this is how the area will change. The concretization mainly increases. So this is within 2-3 years that has happened. This is 23 image. And as you can see, there are these roads which are already planned. So eventually within next 5 years also, you will see something like this coming up in this entire area. Similarly, how the area changes, I think you must have experienced this, but this is very starkly seen when you see these two images. So this is how the vegetation was, and this is how it is today. So this is because of variety of forces, like people are fond of going to hills and they need second homes, they need resorts, and they need to like have some leisure and have some leisurely time in the nature. But while doing that, they also convert the nature to a great extent. Now here I am comparing these three catchments basically. So if you see all these figures, so Bhima area has more tall canopy in terms of square kilometers than Ambi and then Pauna. So which is again, which is very evident that Pauna has more access, more proximity to metros. Ambi has proximity to only one metro, and Bhima has very low proximity to metros. So this is very clear from all these land uses that you see here. The human use in Bhima includes the agriculture and open areas which are being used for shifting cultivation. So it has more percentage of human use in Bhima, but also we must note that entire catchment of Bhima has more area. So it is almost 280 square kilometers. So that is why this percentage also changes. But out of this 280 square kilometers, almost 56 kilometers is under forest department ownership, which is the Bhima Shankar Wildlife Sanctuary. And that is the game changer in Bhima catchment, because it has a huge chunk of land which is under one single ownership of forest department, which is actually conserving the original ecosystem. While in other two catchments, the forest department ownership is quite low. And this is how the area percentage changes. So here if you see that Pauna has maximum human use, and Ambi has lesser, and even the Bhima catchment have it also in a more percentage. But if you compare all these other areas, you can see that dwarf canopy and open scrub areas are the ones which are of more percentage. Now, our experience is that in last 25 years, this percentage has been changing. There has been some increase in tall canopy, some increase in dwarf canopy, some decrease in open scrub, which is getting converted into better canopy areas. And that's because of the benign neglect that has been happening because of this funny combination or funny transition of ownership from local people to city dwellers. So as you must be knowing, all these areas are being purchased. So whatever private lands are being purchased by city dwellers, and it is mainly for resorts, farmhouses, maybe
Manasi,
industries. Yes, Prajakta.
can we take questions in another 5 minutes?
Yes, yes, just 2 slides remain.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So this is how the change has been happening. And as per our one of the analysis, it is seen that almost 70% of the land is now with city people. So you can imagine how higher responsibility we have. And this modern development in Pauna catchment is almost 4 to 5%, whereas in Bhima catchment it is 1%. So this actually tells the story of how this change is. And just to do one analysis, so there is a shift from natural to semi-natural areas. Then I talked about the proximity to metros and the construction activity increases. So there is increase in construction because of roads, various structures, and land development and leveling. Then conversion of semi-natural areas to construction, that is concrete, and the change of ownership is from local people to private landowners from cities is almost 70 to 80% as it depends on catchment to catchment, but it is on in the range of 70 to 80%. And these are the impacts of all these activities. So impacts are there. So now we are talking about the source regions of main rivers, the main peninsular rivers of India. And so their natural rhythm changes, their sedimentation capacity changes, or there is reduction in replenishment of nutrients and sediments to these river terraces. There is increase in pollution level right from the source. So earlier it was just from Pune, say, but now we have Lavasa, which is in the catchment. So, or even the smaller developments that are coming up. So obviously pollution rivers are changing, the water quality is changing, and lastly, the increase in soil erosion. So which is increasing the siltation of dam, and there is capacity reduction. So all these impacts, so I have just enumerated majority impacts, but there are various facets to each and every impact that we see in this slide. So this is how the source regions are actually changing the entire face of these catchments. And so I can say that whatever activities that we do in the source region and the trend of development, the trend of modern development that is happening in these areas will have a greater impact on our rivers as the days pass by, because we have been seeing it in last 25 years that the modern development trend has increased. It has increased manifold. So we need to be really careful and like be future ready to have these things or to reduce these impacts basically. Yeah, so I stop here and let's take some questions.
So Sanjeev is going to moderate these questions. Sanjeev. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
There are not many questions in the chat box, so people maybe can feel free to ask questions directly. A question from Shailaja Tai, where she asking how the change in ownership and access they impact the source region with respect to surface and groundwater security. I think that point was maybe not touched. The surface and the groundwater, because that is also a big point which we are having a problem in cities. So
Yes.
how does that impact?
So mainly when you have a change in ownership, so as ownership changes, there are variety of developmental activities that happen in the catchment area. So like leveling happens, or there is change in hydrology because of roads. And as the hydrology changes, the surface water, which actually streams carry the surface or the rainfall that falls in these regions. And these are very high rainfall areas, well-drained areas. And if there is any change in hydrology, it affects the hydrological cycle. For groundwater, I would say these are not like good areas for groundwater, but these are catchment areas. So groundwater is pretty low in these source regions. But whatever groundwater that is there or that was there in the river, which is now submerged under the impoundment of water, it had changed, obviously. So for groundwater, I won't say there is very high impact, but for surface water, yes, it's very high.
Yes, so she had also asked with it increased flash flood events. I think that was more or less answered when you said it will change the hydrological cycle and
Yes.
it will actually, so that
And
I think
it also changes the streams of that area, because streams in these catchments are very important as they are carriers of water, and they drain all the high rainfall that is present in these areas. So the streams are pretty important, and keeping them in intact stage is something that we should aim at.
probably the streams also are getting submerged by all these developments. Small streams are
Yes.
uh, yeah. So that is there.
So they are submerged, they are channelized, their course is changed. The velocity that comes in the streams it changes, the volume of water changes. So all these things, and it eventually has an impact on the aquatic life, obviously. So the stream ecosystem is hampered to a great extent.
Absolutely correct. So Rohan, as a question which is asking, as a normal citizen, what he can do for the revival of rivers, and who also works the people who work weekdays, how they can contribute to the movement. So probably we can answer this later, maybe Jaideep, and we can answer this. It is
Yeah.
not very maybe linked to the subject which Mansi is handling, but yeah, if she wants to add something for this, you know.
No, I think we have been talking about this through River Revival a lot of times. So I think connecting to similar, like-minded people, awareness creation, and changes in our own lifestyle. That's the key issues that
Correct, absolutely. So
at this.
Ron, maybe you can tell your friends not to build farmhouses, going on near the river and all that, and to be very, whatever, they have to be very aware what will happen when they do that. So if that is possible, I think that's a good thing which you can, from today's subject at least you can take that learning. We will of course, you can join our WhatsApp group which was given earlier, and from there you can find out what you can do as a normal citizen. We all actually are normal citizens like you, and we are all worried about the issues of the river. So you can also join us, and you will automatically know what all you can do. It will be very good. Seema Agarwal has asked which steps which have taken by citizen or government have given maximum impact in river revivals. Citizens or government? Yeah. Seema, you want to clarify these questions, that which are the steps which are taken, which is more having more impact, whether citizens or government?
Yeah, my
Seema, you can.
question was, yeah, I am here.
Yeah.
My question was, I wanted to know if there is any specific step which has given maximum impact, and then the same can be replicated to other places.
So there have been various case studies about this, right from whatever I have talked to, even like restoring rivers and impacting it in a positive way. So like last time Ketaki had mentioned one case study from New York, or even in India, we would have few small case studies that are now coming up as good models, or having some good practices of development in these catchments. So that is also one of the areas where we can concentrate and work as citizens. So if we have land, or if other people have land, what are the best practices for land development, and how not to develop land conventionally? So these are few things that we can actually talk to people and ensure that this doesn't happen.
Sorry to interrupt, Sanjeev. Before we take more questions, now that the questions are coming, that what we can do as citizens, let Jaideep say a few words about PRR, and then we can continue with our questions.
Sure.
Oh, hey, thanks, Prajakta. Actually, it's fitting that I'm given this chance, because just up until 2 years, land opportunities, अरे इसको तो NA बना सकते हैं, या इसमें plotting कर सकते हैं, इसमें amenity space अपने पास रख सकते हैं. All these things meant a lot to me. So this is a chance for me to, in some ways, absolve myself from that. And the way I want to do that is I want to share what happens in the background. Just take a look at, I want people on this, the audience here, to understand that saving our rivers involves a lot of costs that PRR volunteers bear personally, especially costs of water testing, stream mapping, transport, software, admin, technology, RTIs. We've even launched litigation that volunteers have signed on their own and paid their lawyers all on their own. Some of you may have even seen the Gotala song. Notice that song. Obviously the footage cost takes a lot of high quality equipment. There is VFX graphics. That's what makes people move closer towards understanding riverine system. I should also call attention that look, we have very high caliber session. People like Manasi, last week we had Ketki. All these people are they run for profit organization. Their time is worth a lot, but their contribution to this time is valuable. They are giving in many ways. So I want to appeal that all of us, they can give their time, they can give their expertise. Many of us don't have that. What we can give is we can give money. So I want to urge all of you to just connect with Jeevat Nadi is the way we source funds that we can deploy to heal our rivers. And I've shared that information on the chat. So I would request you to take a snapshot, grab all of that. Maybe Amit Raj has already re-echoed that. I'll also put it on PRR group. If you can join that group, you'll have that information. And the thing about giving is that everyone says, oh wow, what he's saying makes a lot of sense, and then we forget, right? Raat gayi baat gayi. So please don't do that. This is what calls for your personal discipline. Commit to yourself that you're going to give this by tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Because PRR and Jeevit Nadi are very lean organizations. We don't have UPI ID. We don't even have a SIM. So it'll need a small effort on your part to add this as a payee. It takes 24 hours to add payee, but once you're connected, it's going to get easier. So please do that. Add the payee if it's not there. If you already have Jeevit Nadi as a payee, please make that donation by all means. Take today as the commitment date, but if not, make it tomorrow. For those of you who can't do that today, please just send me a DM that, hey, I'm up for this, not right now, but if a specific expense is there, reach out to me. I'm happy to provide that service and just keep you in the loop of what are the opportunities coming up. Just on behalf of PRR, sorry, it's a little long drawn, but I'm really committed to, we've taken a target of 50,000. It's not a big amount. If this would have been a consultant brought on, I think we'd value it at more than 1 lakh, but let's just together try to raise 50,000 for PRR. I hope we can do that, and let's make this happen. Thanks for the chance to talk. Prajakta?
Yeah, can I go ahead with the questions? Prajakta?
Yes, please. Yes, Sanjeev.
So there was a question from Parinita, which is a very good question. Says when it comes to the governance of headwater zones, so when we saw that when it is under forest department, there is good regulation and less impact. So apart from forest department ownership, what can be the mechanisms which can help to regulate the land without the change in ownership? How can we do land regulation without change in ownership? So do we have any such avenues which we can target specifically?
Right. So when we talk, when it is concerned to the ownership, if there is a mix of people who own the land, then it becomes very difficult to bring them on single platform. So in that case, some policies may work well. So some policies maybe for catchment areas, if we can push it to government, that you need to have some document wherein you can say to people that if you are developing land or if you have land, then you need to abide to these rules and regulations. So something like that, even PMRDA, which is the new authority for our area for Pune and PCMC area, they have been trying. So in their DP, they have pretty good rules and regulations that they have laid. But of course, all these rules and regulations are voluntary. So there is no mechanism by which they can be ensured that these things are happening, or whenever there is land leveling that is happening, there has to be some mechanism to review it, to stop it, or there should be some mechanism to get permissions from some authority to build, some permission on roads, on maybe tree cutting, because in these areas, whenever there is development, rampant tree cutting happens, and there is no authority who can actually curb it or have some say on it. So all these things are about bringing in some new sets of rules and regulations, some policy documents, so that all these things can be enforced. So from our side, we have been trying to educate people to involve these private landowners through variety of ways to create some documents that we keep on like sharing with our own contacts. Though our reach is pretty small, but at least we keep on sharing that. So, but beyond this citizen or individual capacity, whenever there are policies and rules and regulations, it happens at a better scale. So I think something like this needs to be in place.
Yeah, true. I mean, as we can have any number of regulations and all, but the problem in this country is implementation. We have really good rules and regulations in a lot of areas, but we are not able to implement even simple rules. So that challenge is always there, and we'll have to see how to actually get to that challenge. So Nitin Borkar is asking, have we made any representation before the state based on the ongoing issue?
So frankly, no. So we tried to do this some years back. We tried to contact Environment Department, and we asked them, we requested them that if we can have such policy, we were ready to create that policy document for them, and if we can have that policy, then it will be good. So that policy was having some inclusions like how to develop the land without much damage to the area, then how to restore the land, what should be the role of biodiversity conservation for all these areas being catchment areas, and Sahyadri, which is the biodiversity hotspot. So considering all these things and its importance, the IUCN red listed species, the endemic species, we had given them that let's have a mixed land use policy for these areas. And depending on ownership, depending on who the owner is, like city owner or the local people, we can have different solutions for them. We can have different livelihood options for them, because that is also one of the key thing which is actually degrading those areas. So how to have some sustainable livelihood options. So all these things we had tried once, but that was it. We don't have much reach in the policymakers.
Yeah, I think, and Mukund also said the same thing. The solution would be having more of forest restoration instead of public ownership. Yeah, how to get back those forests and remove the ownership which is damaging. So,
Yeah,
yeah, challenge, but yeah, that would be one of the good solutions.
right.
अजून कोणालाही प्रश्न असेल तर तुम्ही डायरेक्टली पण विचारू शकता मराठीमध्ये पण.
मराठीमध्ये विचारले तरी चालतील प्रश्न. आणि जर मराठी टाइप करता येत नसेल तर अनम्यूट करून विचारले तरी चालतील.
I think Jaideep needs to ask something.
Yeah, so when I said I was investing in these kind of land change uses, I wasn't joking. I literally did that. Now that I've done that, but I have not built anything, what do you suggest? Because these are small parcels of land. What is your recommended use of these lands? Because
So,
it's a high cost to go and rewild that place.
so
In
in
fact,
these,
I just want to add, I have a adding to that as well, Manasi, and I was
Yeah.
just going to ask the same thing, that we do have a few pieces of land, and maybe with your help and Katie's help, we could maybe try to, rewild these in the right way.
Right. So fortunately, these areas, the catchment areas, which is Sahyadri, it has a great capacity to spring back by its own. So what we need to do is we just need to ensure that the land use is not changed and ensure that there is protection from human activities. So activities like say grazing or fire or wood cutting. So even if we ensure this by having a simple fence and just do nothing in those areas. So that is the best policy. But going ahead, there could be some other ways also, like we do for many of the lands, that there could be mixed land use, there could be uh, some active restoration things, some active plantation that can have actually some conservation value, like planting rare and endangered and species which need conservation actually. So these things can be added as an additional layer. But the first thing would be to just warden of the land. Gode sir had a beautiful term for this, benign neglect. So this is what we need to do for many of our lands, and nature takes its own course. Though it will be slow, but it will happen.
I think the solution is that we change our concept of ownership of land. The land ownership should stay with the forest department, and we should plant and help the forest department to regrow our forest. So restoration of forest and restoration of catchment areas in the forest is the most important thing.
Yeah, that is also true. But unfortunately, the in these, like in Sahyadri landscape, forest departments own a very small percentage. So majority of the land is owned by private people, which were earlier the local people, the villagers, and now it has changed to city dwellers. So there are like large tracts of lands, like 100 acres, 200 acres, which are under ownership of developers.
In
I think
Kadbanwadi
now-
area, there is a land area of 3,000 hectares,
Hmm.
which is a prime forest land, which used to be a prime forest land. It's
Yeah.
still owned by forest department. And we should develop such areas. People should go there and restore forest by maintaining the biodiversity of indigenous plants.
Yeah, surely.
I would
think
like
Pranita
to,
wants to say, go
yeah,
ahead.
just,
Parinita
hi.
has a hand. Yeah, go
Hi,
ahead.
Parinita.
Hi. Hi, Manasi. Fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. It was great to see the kind of changes happening in such a short duration that you had. I wish you had more time for this. I just wanted to add one thing when we talk about, forest department, forest owned lands. At the same time, we know that forest ownership has been exclusionary. It has excluded local communities to a large extent and not to very great results throughout the country, as we can see. I would just like to highlight the role of community conservation in almost all of the headwater regions in Maharashtra as well as throughout the country. We have, like you said, we have a series and network of sacred groves from Bhimashankar to Pavna, Indrayani, Ambi Mosi, as you said, which are really fantastic. We also have fish conservation areas, like in Tekpavade, in Bhimashankar also, in Indrayani, in many places in the source regions, there are fish conservation sanctuaries. There are Sati Asra dohas, the deep pools which are protected and worshipped by the fishing communities. I think we also need to have a very a sort of a different approach to celebrating these community conservation areas. They are outside the purview of forest department. They are outside the purview of regulated conservation, but they are great places wherein people's participation and support to local communities can start. And oikos has done so much, PRR has done so much. I was just thinking that if we can have network of these community conservation areas and any way to support the local communities directly in their, not a change of ownership, not the change into forest department, not a change of, not people buying lands, but just helping the local communities conserve the places that they're already conserving, especially when it comes to Sati Asra dohas, because they are of absolute ecological importance. They receive local protection also. And that's it.
Certainly. But the challenge that I find here, Parinita, is the like we have been working in Panchet catchment for last now 5-6 years on one of the lands, and now the communities, their behavior, their connection with the land had changed so much that
That's true. I can
it's
understand.
really a challenge to how
Yes.
to channelize all these things, because whenever we work with them, we see that only aged people are there. All the younger ones are in Pune city or in some metros, and they just go there once in a year.
Right.
So, and almost like I said, almost 70 to 80% land, which was actually owned by those local communities, is now in the hands of city people. So now
Right.
the entire community had changed to urban people. So
That's
they
right.
are the new owners or they are the new community there. And to one, like if we say it otherwise, that they are also informed they are also could be convinced to some extent to do some conservation activities on their own lands. So that could be one of the maybe future conservation strategy is what we are thinking of now.
Yes, I absolutely understand. Just I'm sorry I'm taking up time. Just one small thing. We have in Wildlife Protection Act, we have certain sections like community conservation reserves or conservation reserves. Conservation reserves when it is forest land, or community reserves when it is community land. That is also something that possibly we can explore. All of these reserves are not very strong when it comes to a resort coming up. For example, in Tekpawale region, where there is this fantastic fish sanctuary, right now there is a bandhara coming up just upstream. And Water Resource Department should be ashamed of doing this, because these sanctuaries and protected areas are actually stopping the siltation of Panshet Dam, which is at a huge public and social expense, really. So, but anyway, sorry, I just barged in. That's it. Thank you so much.
Wow. So actually, we had planned this session with Manasi, and thank you, Parinita, for joining, because I think the discussion between the two of you was very, very insightful, and I wish we had more time. Or maybe we should have some another session where we can have more discussion on this. So I cannot thank enough to Manasi, Parinita, some inputs from Shailajatai also. So I'm not going to take up more time. I just want to let you know that if you have missed our previous webinars, they all are on our YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search for Pune River Revival, and there is a separate playlist now which is called as Wednesday webinars. So you can see all the previous webinars. And please do come back next Wednesday and the following Wednesdays. And don't forget what Jaideep has said, even though all of us are not experts and we cannot contribute in that manner, we can always donate. So looking forward to more donations. And in the chat box, you can see our Twitter handle, Facebook, Instagram. So you can follow us on any of the social medias. Okay. Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Mansi.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.